Requirements of a 4-year degree are shared at the community college level, the associate degree level. Complete a private pilot certificate and then come to us for the restricted ATP and that core professional curriculum at the instrument and commercial level. So I do see it. We give credit, obviously, for accredited institution transfers. It's a generous process.
Most pilots don't understand what career opportunities are available in the world of aviation. They're making career decisions based on advice from friends or posts on internet forums, meaning they are taking huge risks with their livelihood without having all the details. This podcast was created to help you understand the aviation industry so you can find your dream job. Let's get ready for Pushback. Here's your host and my dad, Nick Fialka.
What is up, pilot? It's Nick Fialka. It is ready for Pushback, and I'm so stoked you're here. It has been a great week, and I hope yours is kicking off great as well. I have an awesome guest today, Parker Northrup. He runs the aviation department at Embry-Riddle University. Everybody knows Embry-Riddle. Everybody. It's everywhere. And he was gracious enough to come onto the podcast, have the conversation, and talk all about the benefits and all the great things about going to their university and participating in their flight program. I'll tell you this, there's a little bit of background noise. It's because Parker's office is on the flight line and there are kids out there crushing the hours, and it's awesome. Anybody, any opportunity to get into the air and making it happen. If there's background noise, like, let's go, man. Let's celebrate the fact that there's really cool background noise. I think you're really going to enjoy it. And I'm happy to go to the ends of the earth to get in touch with the people that you want to hear from. I don't care who it is. I'll dig them up. We'll get them. Like, you want me to get the president of the United States of America because of some reason with aviation? Let's go figure it out. Are you Air Force One pilot and you might have contact with him? Send me an email. I'll give a shout. We'll do it. Whatever, man. Let's go. Yeah, Spitfire. We are Spitfire. Whether you know it or not, you are Spitfire. You're listening to this podcast, to my podcast, and you are learning what it is to be Spitfire. We are a brotherhood and a sisterhood. We are a group of people like-minded about aviation that wants everyone to crush. Our community is so good and it is so fun. And I want you to be part of it. If you have an interview coming up or you are looking to get started, you need an app review, you need a resume, you need whatever you need, interview coaching, all of it. Our coaches are the best. There's nobody else better in the world. We are the best, and it is the most fun, and we have the best community, and you need to be part of it, because if you're not, you're missing out. I love it. It's been great for me. It's been great for my family. I stay in contact with so many people through the Spitfire world. I'm so thankful for it. I'm so thankful for the people that put forth the effort and that let me participate in their victories. It's so awesome. Go to SpitfireElite.com, use the promo code podcast. You'll never regret it. It's the best. So here we go. Parker Northrup, awesome conversation. Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University. Before we get to the interview, 2 quick things. Number 1, if you have a question for me or you know of a cool guest that you think I should interview, send me an email, podcast@SpitfireElite.com, and I'd love to hear from you. Number 2, if you need a resume, you don't already have one, or maybe yours is kind of lame and cluttered, go over to my website, SpitfireElite.com/podcast. I've got free resume templates right there. So they're designed for professional pilots. They're the ones we use at Spitfire, and they're awesome. So go get one. And last but not least, let's have a quick word from our sponsors, because without them, we wouldn't have this awesome podcast. Hey, pilot, it's Nick. I want to tell you about a great friend of the show, Timothy P. Pope. He's a financial planner, and he's completely focused on the professional pilot. He's the kind of guy you want to go to for real talk to help you figure out your financial future. With so many upgrades and so many transitions and so many things going on, you owe it to yourself to give him a call. He'll help you design and execute really smart financial planning strategies, whether it's retirement planning, investment management, military transition, tax planning. He's a great financial planning partner. Timothy P. Pope, CFP, helping professional pilots make the most out of life. Give him a shout. All the information's in the show notes. You should definitely tell him I told you to call. All right. Well, I'd like to welcome Parker Northrup. He is the College of Aviation chair of the flight department at Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University over in Prescott, Arizona. And I have just learned that it's Prescott, not Prescott. So all of you guys that are looking for good scholarships, make sure you say it correctly on your interviews. Parker, welcome, man. How are you?
Thanks. I'm doing great, Nick. I really appreciate having me on today. I enjoyed looking forward to our chat.
Yeah, absolutely. So the idea of this chat today, I want to talk about Embry-Riddle and what it's all about and how, a lot of pilots know about it. A lot of people that are looking into aviation are starting to discover it as they are looking at job fair or career fairs, college fairs, and looking at different things online. So why don't you tell us a little bit about the university and start us with that?
All right, you bet. So Embry-Riddle is about 90 years old, 95 years old. We've been in the flight training and education business for nearly 100 years, but really our focus is aeronautical things. As our title says, Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University. So everything we do here is aviation focused. The fact that we have a College of Aviation is unique in the university system. And that's what we focus on is the aviation aspects. So for me personally, right, it's focusing on the flight part, but also meteorology and air traffic control. We present a complete aviation education to students at the university level or the collegiate level in the United States.
At Embry-Riddle, you can get your certification to become a pilot, but there are other avenues if you wanted to do maintenance or aviation management or lots of other avenues, but pretty much all revolving around the industry that we're all in, right?
It absolutely is. It's you want to think of it as a professional wrapping, right? So we produce aviation professionals, and all that education and what that means as a term is what we do.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I didn't say for the pilots listening, you'll hear some noise in the background, and that's because Parker's on the flight line. He's in his office over in Prescott, and so you'll hear some aircraft running up, somebody going out, getting some hours and making it happen. So we're pilots, and that's what it's all about. So I'm glad to have that beautiful sound in the background. So why don't you take us through, if I'm a new pilot, if I want to become a pilot, I want to figure it out. There's a lot of different ways I can go. Can you talk to me about what I could expect if I were an Embry-Riddle student?
Yeah, absolutely. So as an Embry-Riddle student, what you're choosing is what we're calling the collegiate flight training path to becoming a professional aviator, to becoming a professional pilot. And our focus product and what the industry expects out of us are airline pilots, professional airline pilots. So what a student can expect is to get the fundamentals and skills to fly airplanes, but also the flight education and training to be a professional aviator. So you will come through a 4-year degree program like any other university, except that your 4-year program is tailored so that your flight experience and your education experience are run concurrently. So you learn about engines and weather at a level and a depth that a college graduate would know them, which is much deeper than other methods of getting your certificates. And so that 4-year program will step you from, if you have no hours whatsoever, that's cool. That's the way I started aviation, was with 0 hours. And so that's awesome. So we'll take you from no hours and we'll give you the basics and how to fly an airplane at the private pilot level. Then we'll certify you in instrument flight, which just means you can fly in the clouds, which by the way is super cool. I've been a lot of time in the weather where you can't see the ground, and operating an airplane in that environment is just one of the unique, fun things about being a pilot. And then after that, we'll put in your professional skill levels with your commercial pilot training. And then eventually you'll complete a multi-engine course so that you can deal with larger airframes and be really qualified. That is the basis of the program. Our goal and what you need to know is that the end of a collegiate flight training program sets you up to be ready to build the experience that the airlines look for. So you need 1,000 hours essentially to go into airline service, and how you build those hours is based, and how you're able to do that is based on how you pursued your flight education training. For us, that means being an instructor pilot, in which case, you know what they say, those that teach it know it. And so that's the best avenue to build those hours. But that's what you can expect over the 4 years, is the initial certifications, the education, and then the experience as an instructor pilot, so that the regional airlines are there for you at the end of your 4 years.
Yeah, absolutely. And so you mentioned a couple things there, the 1,000 hours that you need to get in. Now, a lot of people might be thinking in their head, man, I need 1,500 hours for an ATP, right? But you guys are a Part 141 operator, right? Which falls under a special set of rules for the FAA, saying that you will qualify to get a restricted ATP at 1,000 hours, correct?
Yes, correct, Nick. Yeah, I should have maybe made that clear. So the restricted ATP is a recognition that the flight training program is at a level of quality and focus and education that the FAA says, okay, at 1,000 hours, you're ready for this airline transport pilot rating. Most 4-year degree programs in the United States are recognized at that level, and that's a recognition of our quality and certification. You'll find in the U.S. that many community colleges are certified at 1,250 hours, and then of course non-collegiate, non-education partnered flight programs would still require the 1,500 hours that is the basic rating requirement.
Yeah, and I think that's a really cool point, because with that 1,000 hour mark, right? So you have a Part 141 organization like Embry-Riddle that is there to provide you a 4-year degree. You are provided the opportunity to accomplish the 4-year degree, and you're provided the opportunity to accomplish your ratings. But when you get out, at once you hit that 1,000 hour mark, you are hireable by an airline, whether it's a regional, whether it's a low-cost carrier, or maybe a cargo operator. That is your level of entry, like the baseline to get in. If you are going somewhere else, then you may have to, that 1,250 hour mark might be where you have to start, or maybe even that 1,500 hour mark. And so you at home, you the pilot, thinking about this, you really need to weigh, what is that worth to you? Because that 250 hours that is different, that could be the linchpin between you getting a job and all of a sudden the music stopping and you not getting hired anywhere, right? Maybe, who knows, maybe a pandemic virus would come to the United States and shut down the whole global economy in 3 days. Like, who knows, like something crazy could happen, right?
Absolutely, Nick. I like to illustrate it. When I'm talking to young folks, I'd encourage them to consider this. An average airline pilot is going to do about 300 hours in a year, 350 hours. We have a mandatory retirement age of 65. So that 500 hours, that extra year and a half, is about $250,000 in pay at the end of your career because of your line number, right? So in airlines, when you join, that is the most important indicator of future earnings. So being able to join the airlines at 1,000 hours and get that line number and become employed by the airlines will end up mattering much, much more over the course of your career as an airline pilot. So I do like to illustrate that. And also the 1,000 hours ends up, timing out, honestly, time-wise, you're eligible for the airlines with the 4-year degree in about the same timeline. But now you have a college degree compared to other avenues of flight training.
Right. Absolutely. And I'm definitely going to go down, and you at home, you'll see in future shows, I'm really going to go down the rabbit hole and talk about the value of timing and the value of getting yourself to where you want to be as quickly as you can, because each year that you are not at your dream airline is a year at the top of the income earning cycle that you're not getting. And so if you are not going to get if you're going to delay another 365 days or another, 6 months or even another 2 weeks, it costs you money. And you don't realize that cost until you're 65 and you've got 3 kids in college you got to pay for. So speaking of that, right, let's get it's not cheap, right? What are we talking about for the cost here, Parker?
Well, our cost structure, of course, you have your college degree requirements, right? So you will pay tuition, room and board like a private university. And I think the average in the United States right now, and we're about average at $45,000 a year. The flight portion of our training program ends up being about $18,000 a year per certificate. So if you have your private pilot already, then you're looking at about $60,000 from the beginning of your instrument through the end of your instructor rating. If you do not have a private pilot certificate, then you're looking at $80,000. I encourage families, honestly, to be able to budget $90,000 over the 4 years. We do have a wonderful scholarship program, and we do have opportunities. For example, my department is the largest employer of students in my university. So if you're a flight student, I'm also going to offer you a job as a flight student. We can be student instructors. We have a lot of opportunities. But yeah, the value, the cost is significant. But again, the value of it is based on the degree program that you're enrolled in. And of course, the Embry-Riddle name is recognized, highly valued in the industry. And I think those two factors are important to add into our understanding of the cost.
Yeah, I would say I have flown with, I would like to say hundreds of pilots from Embry-Riddle. I didn't go there. You didn't go there, but we know awesome. It is very much a standard. Everybody knows the name Embry-Riddle in the aviation community. That is for sure. The money part, right? That is the part where the pilots are going to have to really consider the value of their education, the potential, and the way they're going to manage that. And you've heard it, I've talked about it before on the show about the importance of budgeting and understanding where you're spending your money, because you are going to spend a lot of money because the cost of entry into our world is very high. You're either paying with money or you're paying with time. So all my military folks, you know what that time feels like right now. It's no fun to feel like the world's passing you by, but all my folks that are in the civilian sector going through this, you have to invest in yourself to be able to move forward, whatever that is.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Nick, can I just add a thought there? As you were talking, it kind of reminded me in my aviation career, which now spans, 30 plus years, GPS came out, did not exist when I started to fly. Cell phones did not exist when I started to fly. I fundamentally believe my collegiate education, as well as my advanced degrees, prepared me for technological adaptation, right? I had to adapt as the technology changed. So for somebody who is 18 years old or 16 years old right now, you honestly don't know the technology of 2035, but you're going to be better prepared to adapt to it with a college education. That's my basic feeling. And I lived that. So I feel like I could tell young folks, you need to consider that. How prepared are you for your own future based on the education you pursue at 18 years old?
Absolutely. And that adaptability, that is going to be a huge part of your aviation career, because it's never a steady glide slope. It's going to go up, it's going to go down. There's going to be highs and there's going to be lows. And to be able to manage that, I listened to another podcast called the 21.5 podcast. And Max and Dylan, they always say flexibility is the key to air power. And I love that statement. Those guys are so good. And that, being able to have the self-awareness to understand that adaptability is important and being prepared for it, getting the tools in your toolbox to be able to manage that, because when life happens, you have to roll with it or else, face the consequences. And that's where we are. How about this?
Absolutely.
Is all of this in-house learning? Is there any distance learning? What does that look like as far as the school goes?
Embry-Riddle has a worldwide campus that provides online learning for many of our programs. And so there are opportunities to pair the online environment with the in-residence environment. The in-residence environment is the only place that we actually do, obviously, the flight training, the hands-on piece. And so we do have some students that successfully start at Worldwide and or finish at Worldwide and come here for 2 years for what we would call, you remember we talked about that restricted ATP? Well, the restricted ATP at its core is 2 flight courses, the instrument rating and the commercial rating. So, and 60 credit hours. 2 years in residence earns the restricted ATP if you use that to complete the bachelor's degree with us. And so you could start Worldwide to knock out a lot of the general education requirements and things that go into a college degree your freshman year, and then come to us. So we've seen that pairing work. Yeah.
This might be a little bit out of your wheelhouse, maybe, but transferring in from other schools, transferring credits in from other schools and things like that, is that a typical thing at Embry-Riddle?
It's common. I wouldn't say it's plentiful, right? So I generally see in our student population about 17 to 22% every year are transfer students from other universities, and especially out of community college environments where students will start there, knock out some of the basic education requirements of a 4-year degree are shared at the community college level, the associate degree level, complete a private pilot certificate, and then come to us again for the restricted ATP and that core professional curriculum at the instrument and commercial level. So I do see it. We give credit, obviously, for accredited institution transfers. It's a generous process. In other words, we're not that particular in terms of if it's an accredited institution in the United States at the collegiate level, we generally accept those credits in our degree program.
To me, that is a great opportunity for somebody that's trying to manage a budget, and somebody that is really focused on wanting to accomplish their goals in aviation, but also I grew up in a super poor family. I couldn't afford college if it wasn't for the generosity of somebody else in my life, that actually not even in my life, family friend that afforded that for me. And if it weren't for that, community college was a massive stretch. So, but I knew I really, really, really wanted the education at my specific university. That was so important to me. And I feel like a lot of people fall into that world. My dream is to accomplish mine at X, Y, or Z place, whether it's Embry-Riddle or you want to go to Harvard or you want to go to the U.S. Air Force Academy or whatever. There are a lot more roads to your goal than just 4 years at the school. So you can do it. And that is a good thing to consider, and remember that you do not, when you have that paper in your hand, that diploma in your hand, and it's the last day and you're all smiles and your family's there and it's all awesome, how you got there is just your story. It's the fabric of who you are. And it's different for everybody, right? So, and I think it's probably pretty interesting to see that as people come in and come out of the campus. Has that been interesting to see?
It has, Nick. In fact, I love to tell you, and it's true, we have 900 students in our flight program. Every single one of them comes to me and talks with me, and I talk with them. I wander around, and everybody's story is so very unique. And so there are times when a student just talks with me, and I just talk to them about how do we get them individually lined up with where the program meets their needs. And so those conversations, I have regular conversations, and I encourage any of your listeners, honestly, reach out to me. I talk to high school, 16, 17-year-olds all the time. I'd love the ability to just help you find a path, and I am not going to hard sell you on Embry-Riddle. Obviously, we are a high-value program and name recognition, but happy to sit and talk with folks about what are the real opportunities and paths to get there. Like you, I was one of those students that, again, I had 0 flight hours, partly because my parents told me in the 10th grade, if you want to go to college, you got to do it on scholarship. There's no money for that. And I took that seriously, and I looked for a path and found one through the U.S. Air Force that I obviously enjoyed. But those paths are there, and we're happy to talk with young folks about them anytime.
Listen, y'all, first off, Parker, I will put your email address in the show notes if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. That'd be great.
And they can reach out to you. I talk about it. Those of you that have called me, those of you that have that have been with me or heard me speak, you know that I always talk about the importance of networking. Growing your network increases your net worth. And being able to, and I didn't make that up, that's somebody else, some other really famous person said that, and I apologize. But really, like going out, like reach out to Parker, reach out to me, get yourself, open those doors. You want to join the Air Force? You want to go fly B-52s? I bet Parker knows somebody. I bet you I know somebody. I bet you I know the squadron commander in Barksdale. If you want to go to Embry-Riddle, you want to figure out a path there, you don't know how to do it, why don't you call the guy in charge? Do that. Reach out. Get on LinkedIn. Find us. Like, you doing that is so valuable. And that is how you make yourself different. Parker, can you find me somebody super cool that's a student that we could talk to? Not right now, but that I could set up an interview with? I think that'd be really neat to hear their experience too and what it's like being there.
Yeah, absolutely. I've got students. I have the good fortune of still being certified to teach in the cockpit. I am, no kidding, line flight instructor. So I teach my own students, and every one of them, in fact, Jared one of my students just passed his commercial certification on Monday. So there was big high fives in that celebration that he has completed his restricted ATP flight requirements. He'll graduate next May with us. But yeah, absolutely. Our students also are very engaged, and that's something that your listeners can do with me as well. I can be a pass-through. I can connect them as well to students that are from their hometown or that have their similar experiences, that, whatever their interest or alignment is or how they think of life. I have students that love to talk to other students, but for you individually, Nick, I've got plenty of students that would love to get online and talk with you in a future podcast.
Look, let's find somebody cool. We don't need any nerds,
Well, we are a STEM university.
That's right.
But we're the cool kids at the STEM university.
That's right. Somebody will smoke a cigar with me. That's who I'm looking for.
There you go.
That's awesome. Yeah, let's do that. I think that'll be a lot of fun to get that perspective too. How about veterans? I don't know if you know, but there's a pilot shortage. I don't know if you've seen it.
I've heard that.
Yeah, I've heard it too. And you don't have to be a jet or a bomber or a heavy logistics pilot to get hired by a major airline anymore. I'm helo trash. I'm a helicopter guy. But the huge focus right now on rotary and huge transitioning to fixed wing, and a huge focus on enlisted personnel transitioning into the world of aviation, or officers that did something else and they're transferring in. So let's talk about veterans and how that ties in.
Right. So we have a solid representation from our veteran community for a couple of reasons. One is we are unique in the private university environment. We're the only ones that operate fixed wing, meaning regular airplanes, rotary wing, meaning helicopters, and UAS operations. So this university has that entire portfolio, and the helicopter program is part of the flight environment. In fact, they share my building. We're all out here on the flight line together. I have what we call some of our non-traditional students, right? Post-military service, GI Bill, education type folks here. I've got an Osprey pilot in my program right now, converting his military experience to civilian ratings so that he can go to the airline. So we enroll them typically often in what's called our aeronautics program, which is designed as a more generalized study, recognition of their prior education and experience coming into the collegiate environment, and or as even non-degree seeking students. So I have a 40-year veteran of the FAA in my program who said, hey, I want to learn to fly from the best university there is. I don't really need a bachelor's degree. I've got 40 years of experience in the industry. And so we enrolled him as a non-degree seeking student just to focus on the flight education and training that he wants to cap off and maybe transition to a second career at this point in his life, right? Because those opportunities are there for veterans and they're there for anybody at that point in their career to say, hey, I'm in my mid-40s, early 50s. I want to try this other career path. Embry-Riddle provides that foundation to pivot to a new professional stance if that's what a veteran is interested in doing.
Yeah. So have you seen, I would say over the past, I don't know, let's say since the COVID nozzle started shutting off about 18 months, 20 months ago, have you seen an increase in the interest from the military segment?
We have, yeah. So our veteran population it continues to grow, and of course we've got dedicated veteran service organizations here. Embry-Riddle happens to also host the largest Air Force ROTC program in the United States between our two programs. So we have the very young going to be military professionals, and we have the post-military career professionals, and that provides a pretty cool environment, for mentorship and exchange, just kind of getting along, as that's the complexion of what our campus has today.
I imagine the haggard old vet with his 100% VA disability, like coming out of there like, you go ahead, kid, got to take the reins.
Just be proud of him. Absolutely.
That's right. That's so fun. I love that. It's balancing that, getting that. I went to a military school, and we had one guy I started in the 90s, and we had a guy who was a reservist who went to the first Gulf War, and he came out, he was a tank driver, and he came out and he was like 29 or something like that, and we're all 19 years old. Yeah. And you've got this guy just telling you all these stories and regaling you of like what it's like to be in a wartime environment and all of that. So especially for the Air Force side of the house, like it's probably offers great perspective for these guys.
I think it can. For me, starting in the 1980s, folks, that was a while ago, Major Phil Graham, I still remember him. He was the only pilot that had combat experience in my first bomb squadron at Minot Air Force Base in North Dakota, and that was from the Vietnam War. Of course, by the late 90s, mid 90s, many of us had our own combat experience, but there was that period of time where we had one sage wisdom seeker to go to. But our faculty here, it has Army, Air Force, Navy, Marine Corps, Aviation, retired professionals. So the entire College of Aviation here has a very good representation of veteran and post-military service professionals, those of us that have chosen to go into collegiate flight education training as our second career, as our retirement career, whatever you want to call it. But we've got a great diverse group across all the military services, even in our faculty.
Awesome. And I think that's so important. It gives great perspective, like I said, but it adds to the diversity of thought that comes into the aviation industry.
Yeah, we don't have time for it this morning, Nick. Sorry to cut you off. I know we don't have time for it, but the Navy and the Air Force actually think airplanes fly differently, right? When they teach aerodynamics, they are actually different. So we don't have time for it on this morning's podcast, but I think that's something that's been interesting for me to learn over time. So we can talk about that some other time. But anyway, I just find that diversity, yes, and it starts when we explain how airplanes fly. They're actually different in the two services.
All I knew is the more Bernoullis you can buy, the better off you're going to be. That's all I got. Like that's exactly the extent of it.
And I need a big bottle of it so I can fly a lot.
Big bottle of Bernoullis. If I were to teach a class, I'd have this huge like champagne bottle that just says Bernoullis on it. And that would be at the front of my class. So we've been talking for a little while. Like as we are starting to close up, like what questions am I not asking? What information should we give to the pilot or the future pilot that's listening that really wants to know? What am I missing?
Well, I think maybe we need to ask young people, or what I get asked a lot is, how hard is this? How hard is it to be a pilot, an airline pilot? And the answer is, it's pretty hard. It's difficult. It's a significant amount of knowledge. There's a significant skills requirement, right? You are manipulating machines that cost, in our business, that are, $500,000, $1 million, but at the tens of millions of dollars at the airline level, you're operating machines that require a significant balance of physical skill and mental knowledge. And so the dedication, I guess, so when people ask me, I say, yes, it's hard. But it's obviously achievable. There are hundreds of thousands of licensed pilots in the United States. I did it. I'm not that smart a guy. So what I offer is that it's hard, but if you accept that and you want to be a professional aviator, you will be successful. So just start with that. So I guess that's one of the questions people ask me, how hard is it? It's hard. It has to be important to you. It has to be what you want to do, not what your parents want you to do, not what your friends want you to do, not what you think is cool because you've seen it on TV. It has to be generally when you sit and close your eyes and think about your future self, you see yourself there. This is what a young person has to do if they want to be successful, given the challenges of the industry.
Yeah. And, so I've got a whole truckload of kids. I've got 5 kids, and I tell them every day, like, you can do hard things. You are a person that has drive. You are a person that has focus, and you can do hard things no matter what it is. If you put the level of effort into it, you will be able to sort it out. And that comes true. I spent a decade instructing in the Navy, and it definitely, a little less than a decade, we'll say. Don't be afraid. If this is something you want to do, then go out there and get it. But you better come ready to fight, and you better come 110% every single day. Because if you come 90%, you're going to fail. If you come 95%, you're freaking out of here, man. Like, it just is. And you can tell when you sit down with somebody and they're ready to rock, or they've just been fumbling through, more worried about drinking and hooking up and whatever else you're going to do. Because this, no other job in America will pay this kind of money without you having a PhD, 8 years of school, fellowships, everything. Like, you cannot find that job unless you start your own app or whatever, and you do it the entrepreneurial route. But this is it. This is the only one.
Yeah, I agree completely, Nick. I think that's good advice. It is hard, but it's achievable, and it's worth it, right? So it is. It's so much fun.
It's so worth it.
I still love it. So I still love flying. That's like the best thing I ever get to do. Not sitting at my desk, not talking to you on the podcast, which is awesome, but going to fly is what's fun, man. I'd still love to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm on paternity leave right now, and I'm like, I need to get out of here. I got to go fly. I can't stay in this house any longer. Yeah. But just because I don't like walls, not because I don't love my family. Let's be real here.
Right.
Yeah, I love that. You have to come ready. You have to put forth the effort. And if you do, you will be rewarded well. And it's all worth it. Man. Parker, thank you, man. I really appreciate this time. I'll have Parker's bio in the show notes. If you want to reach out to him, like we talked about, 110%, send him an email. You'll find it in the show notes. Yep. Reach out and grow your network. Find out who you are. Parker, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Nick. I really enjoyed it.
Hey, before you jump out of here and go on to the next podcast, can I ask a big favor? Would you mind going over to your app that you're listening to this podcast on and give me a review? Give me a 5-star review if you love it. Give me a 1-star review if it totally sucks. Put a comment in there, something that is helpful. It helps me. It helps get the word out there. It helps people find the podcast, and that's super cool. If you don't do that, maybe you could just share the podcast with a friend. Tell a buddy who's trying to figure it out, trying to sort out this pilot dream of theirs and get a little bit further. That is super awesome as well. Last, if you don't do either of those two things, how about this? Find a way today to make yourself 1% better. Do that thing that you've been putting off. Put your foot forward, make movement, get yourself going, get that inertia that you need to succeed in this industry. So that's your choice. Leave a review, tell a friend, or make yourself better. Either way, it's all a good choice. And I'm super stoked you're listening, and I will see you on the next episode. The statements made on this show are my own opinions and do not reflect, nor are they under any direction from my employer.